Okay, on our MarquetteHoops.com show, we want to follow closely Shaka Smart and his staff as they go across the country and trying to add talent in the 2022 class and possibly some transfers. And we wanted to stop and see and review what's happened. And I couldn't think of a better source to talk to than Mark Miller from the Wisconsin Basketball Yearbook. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, John. Appreciate you having me on.
Mark, first, we'll talk about recruiting, but you have a Christmas holiday tournament coming up next week on December 28th, 29th, and 30th. The Rick Majerus WBY Shootout. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, this is our 16th year, and last year we had to cancel, unfortunately, due to COVID. This year we're on for next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the 28th, 29th, and 30th. We start at 10 a.m. in the morning at Concordia University, and we have 8 games each of the 3 days. We have teams from all over the state participating, some of the better teams and some of the better individuals. The schedule is up on WBBY.com. $10 gets you in for the whole day if you're an adult, and 5 for students. And we're excited to be back, John, after missing last year. And the Rick Majerus Family Foundation is a big part of this event, and they give out scholarships to participating seniors who fill out an essay form, and so we have that component, and it's just a great 3 days of basketball, and watching a lot of different kids in one setting.
Rick Majerus and his family always wanted to make a difference, and all the wealth that Rick accumulated through his basketball career at from Ball State, Marquette, Utah, St. Louis. He accumulated that, and at his death put it in a foundation, and he still wants to make a difference. I know that working with his sister, on his birthday, they honor Rick's name. They buy $5,000 worth of food at Real Chili, and they go down to St. Ben's and feed the homeless with all of Rick's friends. And I know working with you that keeping the name out in a great way, and the scholarships too. Can you talk about working with the Majerus family?
Yeah, Jody Majerus and Lori Hoke we've been working with them now since 2015. And they've given out, I just looked the other day, they've given out 52 scholarships, and those scholarships are worth
Wow.
$5,000 each. And then, of course, they'll be giving out some more this year. And they go to seniors of teams that participate in the event that fill out the essay. And then they pick and choose, which ones to award based on the essay. But they do much more than just that, John, in terms of the shootout. And I know that they're also involved in the health field and education and the poor. But as far as the shootout goes, they also buy T-shirts in the school colors for all the kids. We have 32 different teams this year. So the T-shirts go to the kids, and they wear those during warm-ups, and then of course they keep those. And they also help just pay the bills, all the bills that we have, the gym rental, the training that we have to, the trainer that we have to hire from Aurora Sports Medicine to work the event, the timekeeper, the scorekeeper, the PA announcer, the programs that we have, and we give each kid a free program that participates in the event. And the programs are kind of nice. They're not just a traditional program. We put some feature stories in there on high school basketball, and we talk about each team individually. So they do so much for the event to make it a first class event that normally you'd have to go out and pound on doors to get a whole bunch of sponsors to cover. So we're really, really grateful that the Majerus Family Foundation is involved and is giving back to the community and to the kids and the players. And hopefully we can continue to do this for many years to come.
At St. Ben's last year, we took a tour of what the foundation has done at St. Ben's, and they redid the cafeteria to make it much more user friendly for all the work that they did. They put in a barber chair area, special where they could get grooming. Homeless and poor can get groomed. There's daycare, so they can job skills and places where they can stay. If it's really cold out, they'll open it up, and if it's below zero or whatever in a harsh winter, it's just amazing what the foundation has done for St. Ben's and the community. So, what teams are going to be there, or what players should we look at?
Well, we have 32 teams, and they come from all over. A good core of them obviously are Milwaukee area based. One of the teams that will be there is Wisconsin Lutheran, and both Marquette and Wisconsin have offered Con Knippel, and he's only a sophomore, but they offered him a scholarship already. So that's one team. They're unbeaten right now. Heartland Arrowhead is going to be there, and they're unbeaten. Brookfield Central, they're unbeaten. Lake Country Lutheran, they're unbeaten. Sheboygan Lutheran's unbeaten. So several really good teams that are still undefeated. But the teams from outside the area, Onalaska comes almost every year, and they always have a real solid team. DeForest is coming up. They have one loss, but they have a very good team and made it to the state tournament last year. Cuba City with Jerry Pettigrew will be there. Appleton Xavier, De Pere, which is the number one ranked team in Division One, will be there. Menominee Falls with Seth Trimble and Stephen Clay. Seth's going to North Carolina. So both Brookfield East and Brookfield Central and Brookfield Academy will be there. So the full schedule of teams is on WBBY.com, and that also lists the times and the matchups for all the games.
Well, it's great. It'll be a great time. Encourage people to look at that and go out and attend. Very easy to get to at Concordia College. Just basically go up to Mequon Road and take a right. Is that what you do, or?
Yeah, and then you just kind of weave your way over to Concordia, and parking's free, which is nice. There's plenty of seating, and it's great concessions, and it's just a great opportunity to see kids not only from Milwaukee but from all over the state, and watch some really good teams, and just watch high school basketball.
Terrific. Let's turn our attention to Marquette basketball recruiting. Marquette signed 2 players early. Just want to get your thoughts on it. Point guard Sean Jones, 5'10", point guard from Columbus, Ohio, Guiana Lincoln High School. And then Chase Ross, he's an athletic combo guard from Christian Academy in Massachusetts, but he was originally from Texas. Both guys are kind of under the radar people, but I wanted to find out what you thought.
Yeah, I think particularly with Sean Jones, he fits a really big need for Marquette, and that's quickness in the backcourt, and the ability to handle the ball against pressure and put defensive pressure on with his quickness. He's really quick, can really turn the corner on defenders, and that I think is something that they're going to really value going forward. So that quickness, that quick burst and explosiveness that maybe isn't overly prevalent right now in the backcourt. I think Jones, really brings that aspect to the game. He's a dynamic player. He's a little on the short side, but he more than makes up with it with his ability to utilize his quickness. Quickness, shot blocking, length. Those are things that maybe aren't always so pretty, but they're so vital to winning, especially when you play in a Big East where it comes down to 1 or 2 possessions so many times. So Sean Jones, really improves Marquette's quickness. I think that's the biggest attribute that he brings to the team, and his ability to play point guard. As far as Chase Ross goes, he's a wing, 6'4", 6'5", shoots the ball at a very high rate. He's also athletic, can take it to the basket. So, I think when you look at Marquette right now and losing Greg Elliott, after this year, most likely, who knows with the extra year of eligibility, but the ability to make shots from the perimeter is huge, as we all know when we watch college basketball or high school basketball, any basketball for that matter, and that's going to be something that he can do. But he's also long and athletic, so he can also get to the basket and score in that manner. So I know they're very excited about both players, and they're ready to go for next year as incoming freshmen. And when you look at Marquette's roster right now, they have 9 players who are freshmen right now. Several of them played last year, so they get that extra redshirt year. But when you look at that core of 9 guys, and then you add in Jones, at the point guard position, and Chase at the wing, you're looking at really the foundation of Marquette for the next 3-4 years. And you'll sprinkle in a guy here or there, like they did this year with Daryl Morcell and with Kirk Weth. So, I expect them probably to look at the transfer portal in the spring, like every college will, potentially sign maybe another player or 2 heading into next year. And then away we go, see what happens in terms of the roster makeup. But the core of really Shaka's tenure at Marquette, I think, is with those 9 freshmen this year, one being redshirted, and then the 2 guys coming in next year. We'll see how all those guys develop. So far, they've had some ups and downs, just like the team, but that's to be expected. So I think they're the 2 kids that they signed are 2 really good players that will fit in well with what Marquette likes to do in terms of pressure defense and length and athleticism.
What's interesting is when you look back the last 15 years, say for Marquette recruiting, there's 2 types of players. There's the player like Lazar Hayward, who was very good, but kind of did things on the ground. He could dunk, but just barely, maybe not even in action. He had to work with Todd Smith for 2-3 years and build himself up where he could take it to the hoop and finish with contact against contact. Then you have the Jimmy Butler type that he was a little bit older. He came here from Texas, and he could go through the lane and he could go up to the rim and he could dunk and finish through contact. When I look at the current roster, it seems like there's more Lazar Haywards, because it seems like Cam Jones and Stevie Mitchell, even David Joplin, that type of player, they need to work. They're a work in progress. They're going to be a lot better. 2 or 3 years from now, they're going to be a lot better than they are now, but they're having difficulty finishing, driving through the lane. But Chase Ross seems like a player that's more of the Jimmy Butler mode, he's got the hops right now, and he's a little bit more athletic, a little bit longer, that he could give him that extra little niche.
Yeah, I think those are all really good points, and you're right. Those guys that you mentioned, and I would put Prosper in that mix too. Although he's an above the rim guy, but he's got to get stronger. Right. So he's a work in progress, just like those other guys that you mentioned are. I do think that Jones gives you quickness. Sean Jones gives you quickness that maybe Cam's quick with the ball, but he doesn't have that really explosive burst, kind of like Dwayne Wilson had at times at Marquette, where he could just get by a guy and that collapse the defense, and then he can create for others. And as far as Ross goes, I see him a little like Prosper, probably a better perimeter shooter, but also bigger. In terms, not height wise, but just in terms of his physical strength coming in. Joplin's got good decent strength, but he's got to get more vertical and stronger. I mean, any freshman coming in, no matter who you are, needs to get stronger, so you can take those bumps that you're going to get against teams like Xavier and Connecticut and Villanova and Seton Hall and Providence. I mean, those are physical teams that they're not used to that type of contact playing high school ball or even AAU ball in the past. So it does take a while. I think when you're looking at Marquette's success today, we're sitting at 8-4 right now. They got some pretty good wins, John, but they've also got some losses, and you can see in those losses just even some progression in the losses. And like you said before, 12 months, 24 months from now, these kids are going to look different, are going to play different.
That's a great point you made about Prosper not being strong enough. Went to a practice, and he and Kerr, he drove and he would challenge Kerr, Quath, and the block occurred. He tried to dunk on him, and the block occurred about 11 feet off the court. I mean, it was way up in the clouds, and he's strong to get it up there. But Jimmy McIlvaine used to say that he didn't have any balance, even at 7 feet. He had a difficult time finishing near the rim because hip checks and forearm checks by power forwards would knock him off balance. He always had a fear of falling. I was watching in the Xavier game, it seemed like Prosper missed 2 real close-in shots, but it was because he was flying up and he was getting hit. He was off balance, and if he gets a little bit stronger, that guy could be like a 6'8.5" Wesley Matthews or something. He could really be something, but it's patience. The highlight for me was the West Virginia game. That's when it all came together and the 3-point shots were going down. And he even Prosper reminded me of Larry McNeil a little bit, to really pull an old reference out. He would run the court and Duncan, and he was slashing, and he had that length. I thought, wow. But he hasn't played. It just shows you he's a younger player. He's going to be inconsistent. But that whole West Virginia game, if they could bottle that one, they could make some noise in the Big East.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you. And we've seen flashes of that game, within other games, but nothing quite as consistent as what we saw, particularly in the second half of that game. So, and that's to be expected. I mean, you have Morcell coming in as a new player, Queth coming in as a new player. I mean, Greg obviously has been here, and he's been an upperclassman that's provided some sort of foundation and has played well, particularly of late. But then all the other guys are all new. So really, other than obviously Justin Lewis and Oso, but Oso didn't play much obviously last year, hardly at all because of his injury. So it's they got 12 games in, and for many of these guys, it's the first time playing 12 games together, and for several of them, it's the first time playing 12 games at this kind of a level that Marquette's played against so far.
I want to get your thoughts about the Shaka regime, the new program, and kind of their outreach to Wisconsin high school coaches and players. It seemed like, I remember Buzz Williams was from Texas. He was more JUCO bent. He didn't really recruit. He didn't put a high emphasis, although he did get people like Luke Fisher and people like that, local players. But I know that Shaka grew up in Wisconsin near Madison. And I was at a basketball camp that he had, coaching clinic, and very well attended by the Wisconsin coaches, high school coaches there. And he was telling every secret that he had. There was any question, he would flat out be real honest with them. The coaching staff was right there as a resource. And I thought he's making an emphasis to really market to Wisconsin, because there's some pretty good players coming out of the state.
Absolutely. I think almost every day I hear from one of their coaches asking for a phone number of a high school coach that they're checking in on a player. And they're not leaving any stone unturned in Wisconsin. They're checking out players all the time, and any player that they feel can help and fit Marquette's style of play and what Shaka and the assistants are looking for in a player, they're going to pursue heavily. And you're right, that is a little bit of a change from I think Tom Crean did a lot of that when he was here. Buzz, certainly had some state players, but he also had, I think his core was probably maybe out of state. And then Wojo was a little bit of both. But I think of the three, at least the three most recent, in terms of really being on top of state prospects and really looking at them, I would put Shaka right with Tom Crean in terms of knowing and following up on leads and making sure that they check out players that they're being made aware of, or that they feel could potentially help Marquette. So I've heard from coaches all over the Milwaukee area and even the state that said, hey, they check in pretty regularly about some of my young guys, or they came to a practice, or I saw them at one of our games. And of course, when you're in season, John, it's really hard to get out to watch a lot of games. Like Marquette just played Xavier on Saturday, and now they turn around and play UConn this week before getting a few days off for Christmas. Well, Xavier Saturday, UConn Tuesday. I mean, there's not a lot of time in there.
Right.
You're focused on that next game. I mean, there obviously are some times for every college program to get out and watch some kids, but I'm really, really excited about how Shaka has and his assistants have embraced Wisconsin and Wisconsin players, as well as those from Illinois and Minnesota, in Michigan, and really the whole country. But that core of the Midwest, I think he really, even when he's at Texas, he recruited Joplin, of course. So being from Wisconsin, like Shaka is, he knows about the work ethic of kids from our state, and wants to make sure that Marquette remains relative with people throughout Wisconsin in terms of having some state players on its roster.
We've been talking with Mark Miller from Wisconsin Basketball Yearbook. We appreciate the time, Mark. And again, if you can remind us one last time about the Majerus WBY Shootout, and also how to order your great yearbook, which is the Bible when it comes to sports in Wisconsin high school
this is
basketball.
a 37th year now, John, believe it or not, that I've been doing the yearbook. So, and it's still, people still want it, and I feel blessed about that because, as you know, with newspapers and publications, I mean, I remember when college basketball would start, maybe 15, 20 years ago, you go to the newsstand and there'd be 6 or 7 different publications that you could pick from in terms of buying a preseason magazine, and now there's just a couple. And then, of course, unfortunately, the newspaper industry has suffered dramatically over the last 10 years, 15 years. So I feel very blessed that people still want this yearbook and really refer to it throughout the high school and college basketball season. And you can order it online at WBBY.com. It's also for sale at Woodman's throughout Wisconsin. And the schedule for the Rick Majerus WBY Shootout, as we mentioned before, is also on WBBY.com.
Well, terrific. It's always interesting and informative when Mark Miller comes on our podcast. Thanks for the time, Mark, and good luck with the tournament next week.
Okay, John. Thanks again for having me on. I appreciate it.